Alright, just a disclaimer to start things off, these grades are not going to mean how much I like a course personally, but we'll take a few things into consideration. This includes how I think the tracks play, if I think they're a good fit, and for retros, whether or not I think they were a good selection, so let's jump right in. Amsterdam Drift. To be honest, it was a little better than I was expecting. At first glance, it looks like more of the same as far as the European city courses go, but I think the farm and garden sections are nice ways to differentiate it, and they're fun to drive through. Unfortunately, while different, I do not enjoy the underwater sections very much. It's hard to make these underwater parts good. Obviously, there are ways to minimize awkward trick times while underwater, but it doesn't necessarily make it any more fun to drive. There's one trick in particular on lap 2 that honestly just sucks. There's really no way to avoid it either. But lap 3 definitely feels like the highlight afterward, so I'll just say that. There's some very cool cuts on it. I think so far I've enjoyed it a lot more in time trial than online as well, and I find it pretty average in the end, so I just can't really enjoy the underwater section, so the grade is just a C. Riverside Park. So I'm a little bit biased for this one, but this was my favorite track from Super Circuit growing up. I think they did a really good job with it though. It is one of the best looking tracks in the DLC, and the music's upgraded nicely while still implementing lots of the same sounds from the original. Specifically, the cave at the end of the course, ending with the dropout of the waterfall, is a very cool touch in my opinion, and it takes a pretty simplistic course and gives it something memorable. I know they removed some parts from the middle of the original track, but this made the gameplay stronger in my opinion. If the original shortcut was there, I'd actually expect this to be a bagging course, like on the level of GBA Mario Circuit. The cuts are noticeable but not ridiculous, and luckily the end of the course doesn't offer much in the form of off-road cuts. Given the course is short, I think it avoids a lot of the double shock nonsense that otherwise could have happened here. The Patooies are a welcome addition in my opinion. I've used them a few times already to cancel blues, pick up shrooms at the end, and I expect we'll see some blue dodge highlights on this track in the future too. I think when, there's a shock also, these Patooies drop items that makes for some potentially interesting scenarios that might actually help first more than you would think on a course like this. The Patooies are also a giant meme in general, and I love the personality they give this course. Overall, I'm quite pleased with this remake. Given this is a first time remake and one of the more popular GBA courses to begin with, I think they made a very good pick here. Grade, A-, and also shout out to Ninstar Frank, the greatest staff ghost to ever do it. Wii DK Summit, oh boy. Where do I begin on this one? Guys, I want to preface this one by stating that I was a big fan of DK Summit back on the MKWii days. I actually have evidence from my MKWii analysis video where I listed as an A tier track. But man, this was rough. Soul crushing even, so let's go through it all. Even before the cannon, there's a little bump for zero reason whatsoever in the snow. It's not a big deal as you can hop over it, but it feels like a sign of bad things to come. Next, the item set before the cannon is really not good for this game. This is because items are now a factor in cannons, and what this means is when everyone is next to each other in the cannon on lap 1, things happen. If somebody pulls triple bananas next to you for a set, have fun. Just a reminder that cannon respawns on this game also take an impossibly long time since there is no off-screen respawn in this game. Oh, and this is also the longest cannon in the game by a significant margin as too, so there's that. After the cannon, we now learn the half pipe is practically broken. For me to not get pushed to the right side of the screen, I've had to hop onto the half pipe and let go of A while I'm in the air. That seems to work for me. While kind of difficult, failing the half pipe is the real kicker because often you get slowed down to a halt if you don't hit it. You just kind of run into the snow awkwardly at times. The bumps in the section after the shortcut are needlessly large. I don't know why MK Tour did this, but it just makes things awkward. Shake tricking in this section feels bad because if you don't hit the top, these bumps tend to push you left or right. This is especially damaging because you have to set up for the double cut right after, and bad alignment is going to throw a wrench in that whole process. The double cut, in my opinion, is a good case of just because we can doesn't mean we should. Nintendo clearly heard the complaints about MK8 being the no fun game as far as shortcuts go, and they wanted to redeem this game by allowing, things like the Mushroom Gorge gap jump. Cool. The double cut, however, is an absolute train wreck. The cut itself is not difficult if your goal is to get to the other side. You can do it to the left, the right, even while small or accelerating. There's really no risk or reward to the cut anymore, and with a large part of the fence being removed, it feels brain dead and largely unsatisfying also because when you land, you get no boost even if you try releasing into mini turbo before landing. To its credit, the boost panel upon landing can be landed on for immediate acceleration if you angle it properly. This is about the only good thing about the whole process. Overall, it doesn't really feel like a shortcut though, just a clunky exploit, and the whole track feels like it ignores the physics of the game, and this is a large part of that. The bumps in the section before feel particularly frustrating because they had the self-awareness on Waluigi Stadium to lower the opening ramp because they probably realized it would have been very awkward in this game. They went the opposite direction here though. On top of it all, they literally just had to copy and paste the bumps from Mount Wario and it would have worked out much better. The final section features more half pipes with all the same issues as before, and that's a lap. To polish things off, coins are handled really terribly on this course. Most of them are on the half pipes, which are already pretty janky, and they are very scarce, like stupidly scarce for a long course. And I think because it is so hard to collect them, that it is likely going to be a strategy online to find one of the 2 strings of 7 coins and take the whole row of coins perpendicularly to the course, which obviously means you have to stop entirely to do that. But on lap 1, it seems like a good investment, unironically, since everyone else is likely going to be broke. Grade F, and trust me, this one hurts to give. I understand that all the people that hate on this track, it's kind of a skill issue, right? But my issue with it isn't that it is really difficult, but rather that learning the course legitimately feels like you are learning a different game entirely at times. It just feels dysfunctional in the context of MK8D, which sucks because I wanted to be pumped for his first return. I just think they did an awful job with it. Yoshi's Island. Okay, this course has been a pleasant surprise the full way through. It is truly a perfect homage for the SNES game in every way, and it is actually quite fun to drive as well on top of it all. I love the athletic theme remix and felt that Swing was a great fit for it stylistically, and in my eyes, it is the best original course since Ninja Hideaway, and it might even surpass that for me when it's all said and done. The question, I don't know what it is, the little egg pouch thing mechanic at the end of the track, is actually incredibly interesting for online play because having to go around the ending is very consequential. You will lose races if you don't land on that red path that spawns, and it creates a very unique element at the end where people might need to decide whether or not they want to open the path for the people in front of them if they missed it, and they might need to evaluate if somebody behind them would do the same for them as well. This question mark thing is extremely chokeable as well, and I believe that this will make for some very memorable moments down the road on streams. I think my favorite thing about the course is not even gameplay focused, but really it's just the results screen music. It is so amazing and cheerful, and I think it's very funny that it plays regardless of where you finish. It will surely make for some funny rage compilation moments, I think, and with the whole question mark thing before the end, man, this is a disaster waiting to happen. Grade A, it just has that it factor. Halftime, everyone. So I just wanted to quickly thank everybody for all the viewership this week. It's been really cool and unique for me, something I haven't experienced before. I think if you told me last week that I have 3 videos in a row with 15,000 views, I would have called you nuts, but the Wave 4 hype is very real. It's very motivating. I want to make more videos and all that, so again, if you want to support the channel and all that, just want to give a reminder to like and sub, because the algorithm's very real and that stuff happens, and hey, I want to be able to make more and see where we can take this. So anyway, let's get back into the content. Thanks again. Bangkok Rush. I wasn't expecting much out of this one, but I'm actually pretty pleased with what we got. Each lap feels pretty unique to the point where you forget that it isn't really a sector track, and it feels like one of the best top spot running courses we've gotten in the Booster Pass up to this point. I'm always down for some path splits, and while the stairs feel like they should be trickable, putting double boxes up top felt like a good change for a slightly slower path, especially on lap 3 near the end. One thing to consider is when you have path splits at the very end of the course, it can actually make the ending of races less hectic, and I think that's kind of cool. I think this course has just the right amount of off-road cuts placed nicely on lap 2. Being effectively a sector course means we don't really have to deal with a broken cut at the end, which is great, but it feels like the perfect spot for people to trying to catch up going into lap 3. I wasn't a fan of this course on tour at all, and was not really excited about it admittedly, but after playing it a few days, I have absolutely no knock on it. It feels like a valuable addition to our metagame, and the only thing holding it back from getting an A is that I just don't think it has any qualities that makes it really stand out. It's just very solid across the board. Grade A-. DS Mario Circuit. Now, as an MKDS kid, I am quite nostalgic for this course, and it has been quite fun to play, despite how hectic the endings get. I've already had multiple races now where the ending is just a massacre in those very sharp turns at the end of the course. I still maintain the opinion that this is one of the best circuit tracks in the series. Its design is not one that is super basic really, like if the minimap does not look like a circuit track. I know a lot of people were griping over 4 Mario circuits being in the game, but this is by far the best one, I believe. The off-road cuts I think they went a little overboard with, in the trees section mainly. I do like the reimagining of the section into a forest, but the cuts weren't originally there, and definitely assist batting strategies more than they really needed to, I believe. Overall, this pick is a little bit of a head-scratcher. There were fan favorites like Airship Fortress and Delfino Square out there to take, that probably just won't be in the game now. But I can't fault them for choosing yet another course to be remade for the first time. It's a good selection, just not a great one. Grade B-. GCN Waluigi Stadium. Hopefully my Mario Kart Wii fans that are viewing didn't rage quit this video after DK Summit, because I have a lot of praise to give to the other track that was in that game. You might have noticed earlier, but this was also an A tier track for me on my MK Wii list. I was a little worried about both of them and their half-pipe mechanics going into this game, and while DK Summit crashed and burned harder than I ever could have imagined, Waluigi Stadium exceeded my expectations and then some. It's my favorite course in this wave and solidly in my top 3 overall for the Booster Pass. At first I was pretty bummed that the terrain was slippery. The terrain, has been a weird point of discussion for this whole wave really. I don't really understand why this and Yoshi's Island ended up being slippery while Riverside Park's cave section was completely normal. Overall, I hope they just chill the slippery nonsense for the last 2 waves, though admittedly I expect tracks like Vancouver will be massively affected by it. Anyways, Waluigi Stadium is just plain fun. Once you get the strats down, it feels quite fast to drive, and lots of mechanics like boosted tricks fit in seamlessly here. And the main half-pipe is more than functional in this course. The boost ramp on the second to last turn that was added is a godsend for a slippery track like this. It was my favorite track to time trial in this wave by quite a bit, but there were also some nice perks online as well. This mainly comes in the form of alternatives that make you make a decision. I like that there are only coins on the right half-pipe, making you choose between speed or setting up for later. The first upper path offers an extra box and a section immediately following one where it can be hard to pull 2 items. And the second one offers 5 additional coins and a glider. If you've broken away in first, this glider could actually serve as a safety precaution to cover a last second target shock. It also seems like this is another good mid to back spot type of running track, as the larger shroom cut on lap 1 seems to dictate who gets the early lead. I think they really did a great job with this one. It's fun and I'm intrigued by the options it might provide down the road. If this wasn't a second time retro, I'd give it an A+. There are just too many great GCN courses that haven't returned yet at this point. Grade A. Closing it out with Singapore Speedway. Now, I was really hyped up for New York initially because I thought a nighttime city would be a very cool vibe for a course. This course looks better, does not have the slippery physics of New York, and just feels much more fun to drive for it. While it doesn't seem as useful for our meta as Bangkok, I personally enjoy it more, and weirdly the gliding feels very fun on this course. I don't know how much I've ever thought that, but the rings actually feel like they can be tough to get at times when doing the optimal strategies. It feels like a minigame within the game, and that final glider in particular on lap 3 is so unique in the best possible way. I think this is actually the first wave where I really enjoyed 2 different city courses. I know there were 3 to choose from this time, but still. Going into this wave I was expecting it would be my favorite because I liked all the retro track selections. DK Summit was quite disappointing to me, but this is actually still my favorite wave in spite of that. It largely has to do with me finally having a wave though where I like the tour courses, and Singapore Speedway is a big part of that. Grade A. Finally, I want to give an updated tier list of the full Booster Pass. Keep in mind these are tiers, not grades, and when grading I tried to be a little bit, objective in the strengths and weaknesses. In the tier list I'm just doing what, I like. In reality, sometimes you like courses more than you probably should, so the order may not be 100% in line, with my grades. Back in the day, I felt like I had pretty non-controversial track taste, but the Booster Course Pass is really showing me that nobody agrees with me anymore. I've seen a lot of people hating on this wave, and while I think it could have been better, namely if they, just put Airship Fortress in, I'm pretty stoked with what we got still. Anyways, feel free to post your takes on this wave in the comments or the ones before it. I'll be excited to read them, but that's all from me today, so thanks for watching everybody, and we will see you in the next one.